Oh, raising the wounds.
Raising the wounds. Wounded warriors, birthing from the womb. We just had an epic session with King Elliott Hulse, a powerful mentor of ours. It only took 2 years, but we're doing an interview with you, brother. Immediate inspired action.
You earned
after
it.
that. Thank you, sir. I received that. So the title of this video is Divine Masculine is Rising. Kevin, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think we started off, we're at Grounding Man in New York, and Elliott was talking about how the world is shifting and there's this twisting happening around toxic masculinity, as if men themselves were toxic. And yet, it's actually the expression of men being toxic. So the flip of that is the divine masculine, which is a masculine who has integrated the 4 quadrants of his psyche: king, warrior, magician, and lover.
Yeah, so we just did a whole session around this, and we've been to many of your workshops over the past couple of years. We're like junkies for your shit, man. This masculine pivot, as we've been calling it, really feeling called to leading rites of passages and initiations. And this one's different than other ones we've been to, because this is called Grounding Man now. It's not just Grounding Camp, it's specifically for men. And so that little session we just did about the archetypes, king, warrior, magician, lover, I'd like to pose a question here. Ryan, what do you think each of us are?
Well, I already know what it was.
Yeah, let's ask
Elliott what he thinks we are.
What do you think
you're not gonna get that. You gotta pay for my diagnosis. You gotta hire me for a therapy session.
Yeah. Because I think that we know.
We all embody the warrior archetype by virtue of being in society right now, because of the pressures laid on us to be, we're subject to shoulds and shouldn'ts. And whenever you're subject to shoulds and shouldn'ts, you're subject to boundaries. And in order to understand and relate to boundaries, you gotta exercise your warrior. I can't fuck you right now even though my dick is hard. I can't punch you right now even though I'm angry. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's ever present.
Yeah, so let's start from there. What is like a quick couple sentence riff on each of those archetypes from your perspective?
Oh, well, our warrior is about our yes and no. This is where we embody the boundaries and let them work for us by picking up a shield when it's time to say no. No, I won't. No, you can't have that. You know, you guys wanted me to do this interview. If I was to put up a shield and say, no, I'm not doing it, that would be warrior. But also to say, yes, you know what, this is what I want. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. This is our sword. So those are our 2 most powerful weapons as a warrior. And each character has a weapon, right? So if we're talking in terms of sword for the warrior, with the magician, it's our magic wand. And it's interesting because the word spell, you know, you cast the spell, came about because way before everyone knew how to read and write, there was a special class that had wands, pens, that would spell out what they want. They're thinking about creative ideas, and they would cast a spell, meaning I'm gonna draw a blueprint, or I'm going to write an order for, say for example, I'm building a pyramid. Take out my magic wand and spell out the order for 70,000 giant bricks. And then 6 weeks from now, all these bricks show up. The magic wand.
I love that.
And the interesting thing about the magic wand, as opposed to the sword, where the sword is very extroverted and it's very obvious, the wand, the power comes from here. Wand has no magic unless you're casting spells, unless you're building something up here and sending it out. That's our magician. All the power comes from within. Our intuition, our intellect. The lover, our weapon is our cock.
Yeah, buddy. Talk about it.
The lover wants, like our last song we listened to, I will fuck every girl in the world. The weapon for the lover is our hammer. And we go out there, and that manifests itself in all kinds of creativity. Of course, ejaculating and giving birth, having people, children, show up in the world, but also too, the lover is the creative artist in us as well. So with our love, we bring forth paintings and poetry and music, all these things, right? Because the poets are writing about what they love about women, what they love about trees. Listen to all the songs that we listen to. It's love for money, it's love for women. Every single one of them. All musicians are lovers in that way. But it all comes down to that sensuality. What am I feeling? And then the king. And it's interesting because we were talking about this in there before. The king is a scepter. And what do you do with a scepter but be? The scepter is just there to mark where I am. I am is the affirmation associated with being a king. I am that I am. So that scepter is introverted and extroverted. So the king dances all of them. So with that scepter, of course, I mark my territory outwardly, and you see this is where the king is. But also too, all of the power that's associated with that scepter comes from within. I don't care how big your scepter is, if you ain't embodying the king, I'm gonna kick that shit out from underneath you. The power comes from the character. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, a little bit with regard to the weapons that we use when we're exercising each one of those archetypes.
I love that you like subtly embodied each one, both like your expression with your body and like the way you even spoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the idea here and what we were just embodying through some music is that all men and women, although there's a flip in the polarity, embody all four of these archetypes. And they also show up as character structures in the bioenergetic Reichian Lowen model. And so it's fascinating because there's like a cross that happens in a relationship. Like magician and king are opposite one another, and warrior and lover are opposite one another. And so for me personally, I definitely like took a heavy imprint on lover magician as a boy.
Yep.
And so that's manifested in me. And I was just noticing as we were going through that workshop that my king and warrior are the ones growing right now, because they're not the ones that I focused on at first. I say for y'all it's somewhat opposite.
Hang on. Because I wanna see if Mr. Elliott, without our bias, can give his opinion of what you think our primary archetypes are for each of us. I feel like that'll be funny to see.
I see a lot of lover in all of you, in all three of you. And like I said, warrior is ever present in all of you. The magician, of course, because you guys are creators. You know, you put on your workshops. You've got mystic on there, meaning that you're working into the mystical realm. There's a lot of magician right there. So for me to nail it down is going to be hard. And I think that's difficult for everyone. You know, I embody a lot of king, but I also very much, like I said, I'll fuck every girl in the world.
Talk about it.
I'm very much a lover. I'm very sensual, and I'm very much a warrior. You know, so in any given moment or any given stage of our life, we're embodying and exercising any one of those. But you know, with you guys, I sense a lot of lover. You know, and it doesn't mean that the others aren't there. But you guys are lovers.
I would say the collective is like lover for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that integration has probably been the greatest teaching for me. I mean, I was literally like crying in there earlier when we were walking around embodying every single one, because I just realized, like I'm even feeling emotional right now, how often like I feel like one is good and the other one's bad. And so I'm like, okay, it's good when I'm a fucking warrior, but oh, see, my lover makes me needy and clingy, so I don't like that part of me, right? And I was just like, just fully accepting every piece of me inside of there, and it was just like, wow, man, like. And then you said something else that really just resonated, and was like our fucking wounds are our greatest teachers and our greatest growth. Yeah, our fucking wounds, man. We have
we
wounds
literally marked
everywhere.
our wounds.
Yeah, you know, I've broken my fair share of bones, been in plenty of fights, and had a lot of wounds, and a lot of emotional wounds, a lot of fucking emotional wounds. And I used to think that I had to fix them, and that's a part of it. But like, man, like that's maybe the most beautiful part. I learned so much in the growing through them.
Yep.
They're not bad.
Nope.
They're fucking good.
We're looking for integration. We're not looking to be something that we're not. We're looking to take all of our parts and love them. Bring them all together. In like Joseph Campbell says, eat your shadows. You don't reject your shadows. You don't turn from your shadows, because in if we turn away from our shadows, then they manipulate us from the underworld. Right? When we stuff something down, it doesn't go away. It just comes back in a passive-aggressive way. Right? When we suppress our sexuality, that sexual frustration comes out in different types of rapists or child molesters. These guys that they're perversions of the energy. The energy is never bad. The energy is never bad. It's always neutral. But when it's judged, it's suppressed, and then it's perverted. Same thing with warrior. You know, you stuff it down too much, and then it shows up as passive aggression. Instead of you just saying no, now you're sneaking away and hiding. You know, sometimes we need more of that. Or with our lover, you know, instead of being upset about our neediness, realize that in that very neediness gives me all of the creative capacity for me to write poetry, for me to lament and write songs. All of our greatest love songs come from wounded lovers. Yeah. So we're gifted in our wounds.
Yeah. Well, what came up for me was what you resist persists. I love that quote. It's just going to manifest in some way or another. And so I guess bringing it back to you, since Elliott won't answer the question, because Ryan and I kind of talked about this quickly before coming into this. What do you perceive us three to be, or us four, as our primary way of being?
I mean, I like what you said, like the development era ends at like 7 years old, and so that's when the warrior imprint happens, the rigidity of like the love and fear. And so I see us all as warriors. Like that's so obvious. But if I had to like slap one on, I'd say I'm predominant magician, always have been. Oh yeah. You're predominantly lover. I'd say you're predominantly warrior. And then you're king. So we
got all four.
I got all four.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's exactly what I would have said. Too, man. Exactly.
But I think what we're doing here and why this work is so important and why we've been to almost every single event is like providing context. Because like all the guys I've been talking to, we were just talking, and like if another guy was talking to, like we didn't have context to put these things in their place in our life. So we had all these, like the shame and the guilt, all the shadows, the underworld. Like we're just like, am I just fucked up? Like all these guys on TV and these athletes, it's like we didn't, as boys in America especially, I think, didn't have a place for the four corners. Right. So like we're recreating that here.
We're integrating, we're becoming whole. So when you guys say masculine rising, you know, the first thing that came to my mind was actually it's masculine grounding.
Wow.
We're pulling the divergent parts of ourselves back down into our bodies. That's why we do all these exercises, because when it's raised up, it's all conceptual, and it could stay in the conceptual realm, and that's nice because it brings awareness. But when we ground masculinity, when we ground man, we feel our warrior, we stand in our king, we share with our lover, you see, and we intuit and we build castles in the sky with our magician.
What was so profound about this particular experience for me was the full circle of it and the grounding specifically. So it was awesome, like having you riff and like give these, I had like intellectually profound realizations, right? The concepts and the context, like whoa, like I understand myself and others a lot better now. And it could have ended at that, and I would have been like, oh cool, nothing changes, my life goes on, that's cool, I just can like be more aware of things. But it's the grounding and the embodiment, the integration, so that now we went and had a specific song tailored to each of the archetypes, and we embodied that. And I'm getting tingles just like thinking about it, because I felt that. I was like, oh yeah, like I'm embodying each one.
Tell them exactly what we just did.
Yeah, so literally we had like this session where Elliott went through all those archetypes and a lot of amazing philosophy, like interdisciplinary studies, like bring them together into this really cohesive theoretical experience. And then right after it's like, all right, we've talked enough. And I love that you said we're way up here, now let's bring it back down here. And so then it was no talking, and we went into 4 specific songs for those 4 archetypes that we just talked about, and each song was unique to that archetype, and the instruction was for us to like act that out in whatever way that means.
Big blaring speakers, so your body's actually like vibrating and humming, and like,
or making eye contact too. Like you're seeing all the other kings, all the other magicians, and it's just like, wow, yeah, it was fucking powerful.
Good. I'm happy you guys enjoyed it.
I love
happy to have you guys here.
Thanks, brother.
Happy to have you guys in my life all these times.
I got you, brother.
I can't wait till this evening. I'll do. I can't wait to share you with the group, and then we'll do Kundalini. We'll let you guys carry the reign on that.
That feels good.
Very cool.
You boys are being initiated.
Appreciate you, Elliott.
You got it.
Should we end it with a group ohm?
Alright. We could do that.
We should share our.
We could do our.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that. Here we go.
Sound us off.
You want to lead us? Here we go.
3.
Yeah.
We're like apes. We apes out here. Good.
Appreciate you, man.
Wow.
It only took 2 years.
Awesome.
Got it.
Hey, let me just get a picture.